Fitness business success. The small business advantage. Scaling up. Can a small business be at an advantage? Can somebody that is poor be at an advantage? Can somebody with a seeming weakness be at an advantage? The answer to all of these is counterintuitively yes. I'll give many examples, but even think of Stephen Hawking, somebody who has one of the worst capacities for writing books if you look at his physical circumstances. I'm pretty sure the way he writes books is through blinking of his eyelids. And I'm pretty sure there was actually a guy who was in a coma that also wrote a book this way. Now, this is somebody who has accomplished more than most people. Despite this, it is because he has taken this weakness and he has turned this into an advantage. He has developed the other areas of himself that he controls. And this is something that Malcolm Gladwell talks about in his book, David and Goliath. So I'll read a little bit of it. The advantage of disadvantages and the disadvantage of advantages. There are many parallels between war and sports. We assume that the bigger or stronger side will always win, but this isn't always the case. Political scientist Argen Toft reviewed all of the wars that occurred in the past 200 years between very small and very large countries. What he found is unsurprising. The bigger countries won 71.5% of the time. He decided, though, to dig a little bit deeper. So he looked at those instances of war where the weaker country opted to fight using guerrilla tactics instead of using traditional tactics. In those instances, the win score of the weaker combatants rose from 28.5% to 63.6%. Then he goes on to talk about the theory of desirable difficulty. So for example, being born into a wealthy family, an extremely wealthy family, might sound ideal. Although this is something that Dan Ariely talks about, is our innate nature to adapt our happiness to our current circumstance. So if you are consistently around something, that becomes normal for you. Whereas somebody like 50 Cent, who I'll talk about it a little bit later, he has seen the worst of the worst. And this is an old proverb or story. It's a very good metaphor. It says, the rich man knows no hunger because he can satisfy himself very easily. And although he has all the means to satisfy himself, he will never truly be satisfied because he's never known that hunger. The poor man has all the hunger in the world, but he has no means to satisfy himself. But the man who starts out as a poor man and then works his way up to become this rich person, he will forever remember that hunger, that pain that he felt in his stomach, and he will thus be then able to appreciate the food that much more. So you want to have some sort of difficulty in your life. It's why I believe dyslexia is highly associated with entrepreneurship, because it forces you to innovate. It forces you to think in a creative and a new way, to internalize things in a different manner. Because, as Mr. Gladwell goes on to say, there are limits of power, and that power can actually constrain you. So, getting back to 50 Cent, this was something that he talked about in his circumstances, how he turned his horrible life, being raised by a single mother, having to deal with just the worst of environment. And I can only imagine the schools that he went to. I can only imagine the people that he was mostly around. And yet, this is somebody that is in the pinnacle, in the 0.00001% as far as how much money he's made. Obviously, there's a little bit of controversy now, but I think 50 is a lot smarter than those news stories would let on. Now, if he didn't have any struggle, if he hadn't seen those things, if he hadn't developed that intense hunger, that immense desire, that burning fire to get better, would he have been as great if you were just born in, say, a middle-class home or a rich home? Would he be 50 Cent? So this is the same thing with a small business. Sure, you have less customers, resources, and are dealing with smaller amounts of profit. You also have less employees, and just less overall things. But, and this is where the advantage comes in, you are able to oversee all of those things better. You are able to deploy your own resources within the resource that you control much better. Because as the corporation grows, it's much more difficult to keep tabs on everything. So you are actually able to over-service the people that you deal with due to the extra time that you can allocate to each individual transaction that takes place within you or throughout your store or whatever your business is. Even in dealing with disputes, you have the advantage of knowing exactly or close enough to what happened in being able to make a well-educated decision in whether or not the customer is just being ridiculous or whether he actually has a point. Whereas most bigger businesses, they can't really even afford to really do that. And thus, in certain cases, when the customer is clearly right, they may just have a procedure in place that doesn't allow the customer to be right. And in other times, when the customer is wrong, they may have a procedure that gives into this frivolous person whose business you don't really even want. But in both of those situations, whether it's dealing with people in general as far as servicing them or dealing with disputes, when it comes to big business or corporations, whether that customer has a dispute, in most of the time, in most cases, they'll be treated like a piece of meat. And this is where big corporations can really lose, in the sense that they will seldom be able to make that true interpersonal connection that a smaller business or just one person can. So let's get really granular and give exact tips to deploy. Number one, testimonials. As a small business, but as any business goes, this should be a go-to tool to establish credibility within whatever your niche is. Videos work extremely well in the sense that you can see the person's emotion and passion behind their words, but written is fine too, if you can showcase it to the prospect. The problem with most testimonials is that they tend to fluctuate between two extremes, really. You get the over-the-top version, which is like 5 paragraphs long. It's talking about how you changed this person's life and how amazing you are, how if the world could clone you, there would be overnight peace, and how if we could just get a hair follicle, then we would be able to do that, and the world would be an amazing place. And then you get the other person who's just like, yeah, they had a good product. I really enjoyed it. Definitely recommend it. And that's all they write. And then like you throw these two, like you're like, okay, well, I have to throw it up. I don't want this to be awkward. So you throw it up, and now both of them actually seem disingenuous, because the super long one, people look at that and they're like, okay, so what, you spent like what, half an hour writing this? Like, you expect me to believe this? Or they look at the super short one and they do the exact opposite. They're like, okay, so you provide this great service, but I mean, obviously you're trying to hype it up. So what, you just like in a minute, you just typed up this little thing to give yourself an extra pat on the back, which is why video works so much better. It's just, I mean, unless you're paying actors, which, hey, that could be another thing, but unless you're paying actors, you can tell that people are genuine. So that's why I really like video, and using some sort of format, it's much better to use that format, because in general, when you're trying to get testimonials, the real problem is that most people see it as a total chore. And why do they see it as a total chore? Because most people have no idea what you want them to say, hence the disparity between the two different types of testimonials you'll get. So this is why I'm going to link down below a format that I like to use for my own testimonials within the business that I'm involved in, and it's extremely easy, and you can even explain to people that if they want to innovate, if they want to add a little bit more, to feel free. But the main thing is that you give them this format, there's no thought on their part, you explain to them, it'll take maybe 2 or 3 minutes of scripting beforehand so you have a general idea of what you want to say. Get on camera, you say it, and it will take like 5 minutes tops. So you streamline their process, you tell them exactly what to do, you give them leeway as far as to be creative so they don't all sound too similar. And all of these things make for a good, consistent, high quality, low stress testimonial that is much more likely to convert. And if you really want to re-leverage them, what you could even do is you can make a compilation, throw that up on a YouTube, and then put that up on your website. Or if you're in a business where you're transforming people's let's say physical fitness, or you're transforming their business, you can even discuss after their story the impact that working with them made on you and how they impacted you with what they accomplished. So all of these things you can get as dimensional as you want. You can think one dimensional, which is no testimonials. You can think two dimensional, which is, hey, will you give me a testimonial? You can get three dimensional, which is getting the testimonial format, and then four dimensional, re-leveraging it, telling your story, showing your emotion behind it, making compilations, and just going for it. So the way you can leverage them is up to the individual business, but they can be shown to your prospects in a variety of ways. You can put them on your social media, you can put them up on your website, you can put them up on YouTube. So here's an example that I was recently thinking about. One of restaurants' general biggest issues is actually establishing that social proof with people. So most people, they would happily eat at a restaurant as long as they know the service is quality and the food is good. But it's very difficult to get an idea. So something simple that can be done to alleviate this is for a restaurant to create an Instagram at the end of every Happy Meal. So somebody, and restaurant owners will be able to tell this very easily, at the end of every meal where the person is clearly overjoyed, they had a great time, you go up to them, you introduce yourself, you tell them you really appreciate their business, you ask them if they enjoyed themselves, and then you explain to them. You say, that's fantastic. I'm glad you had a great time. It's really great to see that people are enjoying what I'm trying to put out. You tell them a little bit about what you are trying to put out. You go over your goals briefly, and then you tie it all back to their meal. You said, everything was good? And say, yeah, I had a really great time. And say, perfect. Do you mind if I actually grab a picture and get a quote? We're actually compiling an Instagram just because we're trying to grow our business, and we're trying to, and you can phrase this out, you can script this out in a much better manner. I'm going a little bit raw here, but just in general, showing appreciation for them, asking them one or two questions, getting their picture taken, and then tagging them on Instagram. So that way, you're getting the testimonial, you're leveraging their immediate network, so their immediate network will see their tag. They may even repost it. You can always ask them to repost it. Again, you can get as dimensional as you want for this. And then within that, you can, at the end of it, to finish off, you can even ask them for a Yelp review or a Google review, and you can split this. You can split test all of these things as far as your process goes in scripting how you ask for the testimonial, or testing different types. And if you don't feel comfortable with the Instagram thing, then at the end of every Happy Meal, you can just ask for a Yelp review or a Google review. That will definitely make it much more likely that they actually follow through, because you're harnessing Robert Cialdini's 6 principles in the principle of consistency, that when they say they will do something, they're just much more likely to follow through. Maybe not all the way, but much more likely than if you didn't ask. So then what you can do is you can compile all of these testimonials on Instagram, and then you start linking your Instagram everywhere. You can even say, have a chalkboard outside your restaurant saying, unsure of coming in, check out our Instagram and see what other people think, and split test that. Or check out our Instagram for food, menu, and a taste of what other people think of us. And you can even leverage this in a number of ways. You can test this in so many ways. Like it's as I said, as dimensional as you want to get. You can even offer them a free $20 or $30 gift certificate before, to see if that converts into more testimonials, or if that converts into more Google or Yelp reviews. And see, I mean, okay, sure, you're offering a $20 or $30 gift certificate, or maybe you're offering a $20 or $30 item right then and there. But what is the lifetime value of that testimonial? What is the lifetime value of the experience that this person has enjoyed? Aren't they coming back? So what's $20 or $30 if these people are going to spend $200 or $300 with you? That is what business owners need to be asking themselves within anything, is what is the lifetime value of this action that I'm taking? If it's low lifetime value, then maybe there's other things that you could be doing that are highest value action first. So number 2, referrals. If you're a small business and you're way under your capacity, you just want people to serve and deal with. It always blew my mind as far as how little incentive most small businesses gave to people to their customers for referrals. Most businesses don't even tell others about any referral or any referral system. Most of them don't even ask. They don't even say, hey, do you know anybody else that might enjoy this? As far as even just asking for a referral in that way, that's like 1D, 2D type thinking. But most businesses just tell their happy or loyal customers, oh yeah, if you refer somebody, that'd be great. And again, that's better than nothing. But what's in it for the customer? Of course, they may enjoy the service, they may enjoy you and what you've done for them, but how can you give them even more incentive to create lifetime value? As far as, sure, you might be giving them more incentive and giving something back, but what is the lifetime value of that incentive? So what you could do is you could give them 20% of cash of whatever the transaction is, as far as you can figure out what your margins are, and then you can give them a certain amount of that margin. You can say, okay, well, I'll tell you what, if you refer somebody my way, I'll give you 20% of the sale, I'll give you 10% of the sale. Or you could leverage it as far as giving them a store credit, or you can use a trade exchange, so joining a local trade exchange with other businesses and give them gift cards to other businesses that they would like to use. You can have a book of all the businesses you're partnered up with and say, okay, great, anybody you refer to me, I'll give you a card for whatever amount XYZ at this business, depending on what your referrer buys. And if you phrase everything correctly in pitching this idea in the right manner, so not just saying, oh yeah, give me a referral, oh yeah, who do you know that could use this? But by showing gratitude, explaining your passion behind your business, and saying you want to do this as an effort to give them back in the way that they have given so much to you, as far as the business that they've provided you. Because business is all about the long game. So for example, Amazon, who for years was not profitable despite raking in God knows how much money, why did they do this? Lifetime value. The lifetime value of those customers and establishing themselves made it so what if they didn't profit right away? And that's a very extreme case, but it's just about the notion of not having the scarcity mentality of needing to pinch every penny out of every single person. Obviously, maximize what you can sell, but to not give back. This is why big time casinos in Las Vegas tend to give back at least 5 or 10% of these high rollers, these whales that come in there and spend 200 or 300 grand. They're happy to give back 20 or 30 grand to make their experience better, because they know if they give them back that much, these people are that much more likely to come back, and they're that much more likely to tell others about them. Number 3, understanding the concept of preeminence and 1,000 true fans. So many businesses have a fetish for mass traffic when they haven't done anything else with the other 6 levers. So conversions, opt-ins, items per sale, average sales price, transactions per customer. And also profit. Can't forget that. And they don't understand the concept of preeminence in looking at each person as a dollar figure, as opposed to looking to become the most trusted lifetime advisor within whatever niche that they're in. They don't see people like that. They just see them as, oh, okay, I'm going to make money off this guy, I'm going to make money off that guy. They don't fall in love with their customers. And if you're not falling in love with your customers, then why the hell are you in the business? Go do something you're passionate about. Go do something that you enjoy, something that ties into your strength. Maybe it doesn't have to be, and people think of passion as something like, oh, it has to be like, if I'm not 100% passionate, that means I'm not passionate. Therefore, you should tell people just do things that make them money. Well, there's a fine balance, but if you're so disconnected, like most business owners are, that you can't show love and gratitude to your customers, the people that are helping your business, then you're in the wrong business. Simple as that. By becoming the most trusted advisor, you are then going to leverage the idea of 1,000 true fans, in that when you have 1,000 people that will become lifetime buyers, as long as you don't produce something that's quality is utter shite, you can harness this and you can make a very good living just off of those 1,000 true fans, which is a concept that Kevin Kelly talks about. I'll link the article down below for those that want to read it. And this also ties into Chris Anderson's long tail, which is something that everybody should read. It's a fantastic book about how technology has made the long tail of profits available. So it's opened up entirely different niches. If you think about Vice, all Vice is filling is the massive need and desire to learn about the world and to watch documentaries. Something that, okay, yes, BBC did in the past, and yes, there definitely were documentaries in the past. It's not as if it's an entirely new genre, but to have an entire channel dedicated to world events in many different aspects. Vice does sports, Vice does news, Vice does everything. They even do munchies, so they even cover food. And even recently, they smartly are capitalizing on, quote, women's interests, which is very smart tactic by them. So it's the long tail rules just work as follows. So make everything available and help your customers find it. So rule number one of long tail is move inventory out. Number two, so that's what Amazon does. Number two is let the customers do the work. That's what Wikipedia does. Rule number three is one distribution does not fit all. So some customers want to shop online, but the majority still prefer to go in stores. But again, leverage both of them. Rule number four, one product doesn't fit all. So once upon a time, there was only one way to buy music, the CD. Now consider all the choices we have online. Buy the whole album, buy a single, a ringtone, a free 30-second sample, a music video, a remix, micro chunking. So it's all about separating the content into its competent parts or chunking. So one price doesn't fit all. That's rule number five of long tail. It's a basic economic fact that different people are willing to pay different prices. So it's the 80-20 curve. So certain people will go to Starbucks and drop $3,000 on, I'll link the 80-20 curve down below, but it's in my first video as well. So it's the concept that certain people will spend as much money as you allow them to, and certain people, they'll spend pretty much pennies with you. Maybe they'll buy a wristband or let's say in some way they've given money to a friend who has bought a product from you, and then they've in some way have used that product, so they've given you a few pennies. Number six, rule number six of the long tail, share information. Consumer information of all kinds, including information about buying patterns, can be a powerful marketing tool. When you provide information about your product's offering, you're answering questions that might have otherwise been halted, that otherwise may have halted a purchase in its tracks. So explaining why a customer is getting a certain kind of recommendation helps build confidence in your system. In the process, you're building trust through greater transparency. One thing that any store could do, specifically a small store, is take a look at what people are buying. So let's say they're buying product XYZ, and then you also know that people that buy product XYZ also enjoy YXZ, product YXZ. Or let's take product 1, product 2 for ease. So if you know that, then you can make that recommendation. That's all Amazon does. And Amazon is raking in, I guarantee you, they're raking in billions of dollars because of those recommendations that they're putting in at the end of every purchase. Because usually they're doubling, tripling, and in some cases, who knows how limitless those things are as far as certain customers that are really spending a ton of money just based off those recommendations. But most customers will actually enjoy that because you're trying to service them in another way. Say, hey, I just want to let you know this because I don't know if you are aware, but people that like this product, the product that you're buying, also enjoyed this one. Do you want me to give you a little bit more information? You don't have to be a hard sale. You don't have to make it hard or complicated sale or anything like that. You can just throw it out there and see what they think. Completely soft sale. Some customers will be really appreciative. Most will be like, oh, no, that's okay. I just wanted this. Like, okay, well, now they have this extra information. Who knows? But because you're empowering, you're sharing information, you're creating that knowledge within them, and you're perhaps implanting a subconscious seed that may be harnessed later on. Think and, not or. According to Anderson, one of the most common symptoms of the outdated scarcity thinking is assuming that markets are zero-sum. In other words, making the classic mistake of assuming that everything boils down to an either or choice. So for example, either release this version of the single or release that version of the single. When you're faced with limited shelf space, that line of thinking is natural enough. However, there's only so much room after all. But in online markets, and this is where the however comes in, with infinite capacity, the right strategy, he says, is almost always to offer all. Now, obviously, you have to be tactical. You don't want to just offer like a trillion things, or maybe you do. Maybe that's part of who you are. But really question yourself and try to think and, not or. And this is where the 80-20 principle can come in either trimming off low moving product and trying to innovate, trying to use the blue ocean strategy of creating a new ocean for you to swim in, saying, okay, I do this, but can I slightly innovate? Because this low moving product is just sitting around anyways, I may as well dump it, get rid of it, and harness the law of leadership as far as the 22 laws of marketing. At that point, try and do something new. And hey, if this other thing flops too, oh well, I traded this low moving item for something that could potentially have been innovative and its scalability was 10x. When this low moving item, there was no scalability. I've seen that it wasn't working. So rule 8, trust the market to do your job. In scarce markets, you've got to make educated guess of what will sell. In abundant markets, you simply throw everything out there and let the customer sort it out. Online markets are nothing more than highly efficient measures of the wisdom of the crowds, Anderson says. And rule 9, understand the power of free. The word free often gets a bad rap. It tends to be associated with goods and services of questionable quality and value. But Anderson cautions us all not to fall into that trap. Today, one of the most common business models on the net is to attract lots of users by offering a free service. So that's pretty much what Amazon was. I mean, okay, of course you're paying money, but relative to how much it's costing you for the product, it's pretty much was costing you nothing relative to some of the other places. And then convince a smaller chunk of them to upgrade or to a premium service with more features, because digital services are much cheaper to offer. The free customers are a small price to pay if you're able to convert even a tiny fraction of them into paying ones. Ultimately, in abundant markets with loads of competition, free may be the next big thing. So what a small business could do is ask themselves, is there a way that we can offer a free sample? Is there some minimal viable giveaway, because you love your customers so much, because you're trying to be preeminent, because you're trying to innovate, you're trying to create that blue ocean, you're trying to be a leader? Is there something that I can offer for free? Maybe just a small trinket, maybe it's free food, maybe it's a free widget, whatever it is. Is there something that I could give away? Maybe I could give away wristbands that people have my branding on and they'll just wear it. They'll be like, oh yeah, cool. I really appreciate that. You give that away at the end of every sale. Or you say we have customer appreciation day once a month where you just give one of those to every single person that walks in. Is there something that you could do that's very small investment, something that might cost you, like some places I think you can probably get like 1,000 wristbands for $100 if you know the right people, or if not more. I forget what it was. One of my friends actually quoted me on this, but it's something ridiculous to where you could get your brand out there, you could give people something, and then you incentivize them through the law of reciprocity to share back with you. Number 4, servicing the hell out of your existing customers, tying back to the preneur hierarchy as far as customer importance. So drop the new customer fetish. Number 1, you don't know who they are. Number 2, you don't know how much they'll buy from you. Remember, a buyer is not a buyer as far as lifetime value or the sort of ordeal that you may have to deal with to get them to buy. And number 3, you already have people that have overcome the issues with number 1 and number 2, as in the people who have already bought from you. And with most people, how their risk-averse nature works, convincing them to buy a first time is much more difficult than convincing them to buy a second time, as long as your product or service or process is actually what it claims to be. So you need to really focus on these people, the people that you already have, and maximizing their value. And that's exactly what number 1, 2, and 3 are stressing about. It's about creating an amazing experience and then maximizing their value through using their network, but also using the experience that they have had with you in leveraging that to go beyond just that experience. So getting their testimonial, or then leveraging their network via that referral. And all of these ideas, the idea of the hyper-responsive customer who will spend as much money as you'll let them, the idea of being preeminent, falling in love with your customers, really appreciating and creating a unique experience for them, and then creating those customers, those 1,000 true fan type customers, and seeking to create a consistent, pleasurable, and positive experience every damn time. So thinking of your business as a franchise, thinking of how would I do this if I was the McDonald's of my business across everywhere? How can I implement a system to do that, to maximize the odds that every interaction and transaction with you or your store will be one that will create that true fan? Remember, service the vital few the most. So how do you service the hell out of them? Number one, it goes without saying, but your actual product or service does have to be top notch. So always look for small things that can make a huge difference. For example, instead of a store asking, "How can I help you?" ask them, "What ad brings you in today?" Or, "Is this your first time here?" To actually begin to facilitate that conversation and provide them exactly what they need, meaning never letting them leave with less than they need, which is your fiduciary responsibility as their newfound most trusted lifetime advisor. And that's why most people will never succeed, because they don't look at themselves in that way. They don't look at themselves as a lifetime advisor, and they don't fall in love with their customers. But when you reframe things in this manner, then you have a new spin and you can go above and beyond in creating an amazing experience for them. Number two, if the item is being shipped out, write a simple handwritten thank you, but leverage that even further. Instead of just writing, "Okay, thanks, bye," use this format. Number one, express gratitude for them in supporting you and the company. Really thank them. Number two, explain your passion and the idea behind starting the company. And number three, express gratitude again and tell them you'll be following up with them to see how they like the product. And if you really stand behind your product, idea, or company, you can always give them your Skype, Facebook, personal email, or even personal phone number for them to contact you so that they can let you know how they enjoyed everything. Now, most people will be so blown away by this over-the-top service that that will likely only take you 5 or 10 minutes. You may create a lifetime customer, and not just a lifetime customer, but a referral generating machine. As I guarantee you, most other business owners are not doing this. And in something as simple as this, it is something that's adding another way for you to have a conversation, for you to follow up and build that rapport. And as the purchases start to come in, general rule is 5+ for a business, or a month plus spent with you as a consultant. As far as 5+ purchases or a month spent with you as a consultant, then you can ask for a testimonial. But what you can do right away is the 20% referral bonus, or whatever you feel is best. You can set up a system that's relevant to you or your business, but always be looking for ways that you can actually add to this customer's experience. And also creating an open channel for them to talk with you, to give you ideas. Because oftentimes the best ideas, most companies do this. Most companies bring in consultants, so consultants can go to the people in the company and be like, "Hey, what are your ideas?" "Oh, okay, cool." And they go up to the company and they're like, "Oh, we really appreciate you facilitating this conversation because, yeah, these people are brilliant. They have a ton of great ideas. Here are the best ones." This is rule number 4 in Sam Walton's 10 Rules for Building a Successful Business, which, made in America, everybody should read that book. It's number 4, communicate everything you possibly can to your partners and employees. The more they know, the more they'll understand. The more they understand, the more they'll care. Once they care, there's no stopping them. If you don't trust your associates or employees to know what's going on, they'll know you don't consider them partners and you don't really value them. Information is power, and the gain you get from empowering your associates and employees more than offsets the risk of informing your competitors. So Sam Walton, I think he knew a thing or two about business. So just arm people with that knowledge so that they can do a good job. And you only do this in the same way that you do it with your customers. You communicate with them. You keep that channel open so they can reach out to you and they can give you new ways to service them. So number four, when you've established that relationship and know who your best hyper-responsive referral generating machines are, always take care of them and continue to service the hell out of them. Again, tying back to those casinos that will give 20 or 30 grand back to those big time whales that are dropping 200 or 300 grand, because that 20 or 30 grand is a drop in the bucket relative to how much money they're making. So if you know it's a drop in the bucket, then so what? So every now and then, send a gift bomb to some of your big spenders, whether it's current merchandise, rare merchandise, or unreleased merchandise. Maybe it's a gift, it's a coupon to something else that you know they enjoy. Think of them. Send them a thank you video. Do little things that show them you appreciate them. I'll give a personal example of this. There's this one store that I've probably dropped 20 or 30 grand at. I don't think I'm their best customer, but I'm probably one of the more consistent ones. They consistently see me in there every now and then, probably once or twice a week, because it's relatively close to me, so I do most of my shopping there. Not once has any manager ever come up to me to ask me for any of my input or to thank me. And again, I'm not saying this from my perspective because I'll continue to shop there for my own purposes, but that is something that would take them maybe a few minutes out of their day that could create a massively positive experience as far as my own experience goes. Just asking what they could do better, what they could bring in. Maybe they won't take those ideas to heart, but even creating that conversation, that's something. And there's this other store. This is a really good idea for a lot of other people, hence why I decided to include the recommendation in this one as far as when somebody makes a product to recommend something else. There's this other store. I only go there for one purchase and one purchase only. And I've been going there for quite a while, so I know the staff. Or I don't know them, but we know of each other. One thing they could do is they could say, hey, we see you in here all the time. We really appreciate your business, but we're wondering, is there something else that we could interest you in? Is there something else that you would suggest to us? So surveying your existing customers, creating that conversation where they can help you help them. Just facilitating the conversation is the most important thing. Even if they straight up, like me, I'm a straight shooter, so I couldn't care less. I would appreciate this. If they straight up asked me, would you be willing to spend more money here? Like, would you be willing to buy a few more things here? Now, some of the stuff there, it would probably cost me maybe like $5 or $10 extra per month to shop there. But I'm not going to shop there. Like, why would I? I'm just going to save that money. If they straight up asked me though, I would. Just because why not? Law of reciprocity. Poor communication is the death of relationships. It's also the death of businesses. As Socrates said, an unexamined life is not worth living. Neither is, to quote J. Abraham, an unexamined business worth owning. So number 5, join a trade exchange. I'll include a Wikipedia of the benefits of what a trade exchange system is, but a local trade exchange, also local employment and trading system, or local energy transfer, is locally initiated, democratically organized, not-for-profit community enterprise that provides a company information services and records transactions of members exchanging goods and services by using the currency of locally created credits. So benefit number 1, partnering with trade exchanges gives you access to the extensive membership-based business network. Benefit number 2, you enjoy an exceptional edge over your competition by taking advantage of trade exchange experience and knowledge of trade. Benefit number 3, and this is something that they listed on their local website. I'll also be including a video down below that explains the trade exchange in a lot more detail. Our professional and dedicated sales force will increase your sales by promoting your product or service. Benefit number 4, trade exchange introduces you to new customers and opportunities as you watch your client base grow. Benefit number 5, we give you the ability to source out your product while our staff acts as purchasing agents on your behalf. Benefit number 6, trade exchange allows you to facilitate exchange of goods, services between your company and other member companies. Benefit number 7, trade exchange's monthly newsletter allows you to advertise your product or service to other members. So just giving you another channel to advertise. Again, for some people it might be worth it, for others not, but The more options, the better. Benefit number 8, trade exchanges can help you reduce your borrowing costs with our interest-free loans. Benefit number 9, your profits and potential growth increase with trade exchange access to international markets. And benefit number 10, trade exchange allows you to defray your employees' compensation expense with our employee accounts. Trade exchanges can be leveraged in a variety of ways, meaning that even if you don't actually use the services themselves, as in the services, you can conduct a survey with your customers and find out which ones they are most likely to use, just getting more information, which is always useful. And then you can leverage that as far as an incentive. Say we've partnered up with company XYZ, we have $1,000 worth of credit, so we'll give customer a $20 coupon, or we'll give them a $20 item for their first purchase, whatever it is. Like, this can be leveraged thousands of ways. You can use these for your gift bombs. You can randomly give them out, whatever you want to do with them. Or you can even use it to pay your employees, meaning that for some of them, they might be saying, oh, I spent a lot of money there anyways. Instead of, maybe I could get better, instead of the paycheck, I could rather take this. Or you could use it as an incentive, as far as saying if they exceed some performance, then you give them that, or if you just want to reward one of them. So let's say, for example, a hairdresser wants to get some printing done, and maybe they want to get $1,000 worth of printing. They want to get some business cards and some stationeries done, as an easy example. Now, obviously, you can go ahead and spend the cash, but they don't want to do that. They want to go and trade. They want to go and barter that off. If the hairdresser went to the local printer and said, hi, Mr. Printer, I want to get $1,000 worth of business printing cards. Can I give you $1,000 worth of haircuts in exchange for that printed? Now, all the printers I have dealt with are fat, overweight, and bald. I don't know why, but that's just the case here. I'm just reading this out. I don't deal with printers, so this is somebody else saying this. So hopefully there's no printers out there that take this to heart. I think you are the most wonderful human beings on this planet. They're going to go, look, no thanks, sweetheart. I don't want $1,000 worth of haircuts. It's not going to be valuable for me. I don't really want that. So that actual exchange, that direct barter would never actually work. Would it? What a trade exchange does is it sits in the middle, almost like a bank, if you will, and actually allows that transaction to happen. Because what would happen in this scenario, let's say, for example, the hairdresser joins a trade exchange, they might get in a line with the trade exchange for 1,000 trade dollars, not cash. Instead, they get 1,000 trade dollars, so to speak, in their account as an overdraft, as an advance, whatever you want to call it, or a line of credit. They can then go to that printer, who's also a member of the trade exchange, and say, I have 1,000 trade dollars I want to spend for $1,000 worth of printing. And the printer goes, not a problem at all. He goes and does $1,000 worth of printing for this hairdresser and gets 1,000 trade dollars. The hairdresser is now $1,000 in debt to the exchange. It owes $1,000 worth of haircuts to the exchange. So anybody who's part of that trade exchange can actually come in and get those haircuts. And that will go off the account. That printer now has 1,000 trade dollars that he can then go and spend on meals, sign writing, mechanics to fix his vehicle if he does deliveries, anything he wants to do that's within that trade exchange. He might want to pay off his phone bills in the trade if he finds that right phone company who takes that trade dollar. And that's basically how the trade exchange allows people to barter stuff off. So the next question to ask is, what's the benefit for the printer and the hairdresser to actually do that in a barter economy as opposed to a traditional cash economy? Because normally you're paying with Visa card, check, or cash, it's still a cash economy. You're paying normal dollars. What's the benefit of doing this for the printer? Let's say for the printer's perspective, obviously he has the options of saying to the customers or the hairdresser, sorry, I don't want to do the trade, I don't barter, go and find a printer elsewhere. And he's lost $1,000 worth of potential business. And that hairdresser might go off and find a printer somewhere else to use. So from the printer's perspective, he's giving up $1,000 worth of business that he wouldn't have otherwise had. But what is his real cost? To actually do $1,000 worth of retail RRP price printing, what is his real cost? He's already got the staff, he's already paying the electricity, he's already got all the overhead covered. Let's assume he's got some spare capacity, because most businesses, if you look at it, they've all got some spare capacity. They can all take on additional business right now without having too much of an increase in overhead. They're only going to have the direct cost of doing the printing, which will be a little bit of ink and that roll of paper. Everything else has already been covered. Even the design of the business card, if there is any design, even the setting it all up, that's all been covered in the labor that would otherwise go squandered if they didn't have that person operating at full capacity. I'm going to re-say this just because I got a little sidetracked here, but even the design of the business cards, so I apologize if I repeat, even the design of the business cards, if there is any design, even the setting it up of it all, that's all been covered in the labor that would otherwise go squandered if they didn't have that person operating at full capacity. So that $1,000 worth of printing, the raw cost might be, let's say, $2,000 in raw ink and paper to supply $1,000 worth of business cards. Probably a bit generous there, really, in terms of the raw direct costs. Basically, what a trade exchange does for business is, first, caveat, you must have spare business capacity. If you have no spare capacity in your business, i.e. you cannot take on another client without also increasing the overhead in a massive way, i.e. paying more wages, expanding your premises, you've actually got, so as in you've actually got spare capacity to take on additional clients, all that is costing you is basically the raw variable cost. So from a printer's perspective, they are now able to actually buy stuff in the trade exchange at 20 cents on the dollar because it only costs them $200 for every $1,000 of trade they actually earn. It's additional business they wouldn't have otherwise had. Basically, every time they spend a trade dollar, they're effectively getting an 80% discount. From a hairdresser's perspective, they're getting a 90% discount to do $1,000 worth of haircuts and earn 1,000 trade dollars. It's only costing them $100 cash. Anytime they spend that $1,000 worth on printing, sign writing, on the cleaners, or whatever it may be, they're effectively getting a 90% discount on the dollar. In general, setting up any sort of joint venture with local businesses doesn't need to be done through the exchange, but you can find many complementary businesses through a survey of your customers' hobbies. Remember, if you have a product but no list, you're SOL. So go find that list. If you have social proof but no product, you're SOL. So go find that product. And if you have neither, well, again, you might think, oh, well, now I'm really SOL. And you are, in a way. But here's what you could do if you have neither. Create a platform. Create a platform for one or both. If you think about a website, Simply Shredded didn't start off as a website where the owner himself was the main guy. Simply Shredded didn't start off as a website to compete against bodybuilding.com. Simply Shredded started as a website to interview aesthetic and smart fitness models or people involved in the fitness industry in some capacity. However, they didn't have the product, they didn't have a list. This was something that was built off of creating a platform for people that otherwise had no platform. Yes, there was certain platforms, but they didn't do them in the way that Simply Shredded did. And number 6, tying everything back together. Having an online presence in 2 different types. Whether it's mostly business related and the other, whether you're giving back and answering questions depending on where your customers are. So what you can do, so number 1, make a YouTube video introducing who you are, your store, your idea, why you're passionate about it, and make daily tutorials on how to do anything in the business. If you're ever at a loss for what to do within your business, then make this tutorial. If you have downtime, why not? Why not give back? Or why not just do like a simple periscope, start up a periscope and give a little bit of behind the scenes as far as how your business runs. It'll just help you rank better in Google when people are searching for you. Number 2, make an Instagram and post some fun, valuable content that isn't necessarily directly related to your business in an effort to give back to your customer. Number 3, make infographics on Canva that you share on your Facebook. Number 4, make a blog spot about running a business or running your niche business or being an entrepreneur. All of these, you'll notice, are endeavoring to give back. Keep each platform exclusive to what it does, incentivizing people to follow you for different reasons and segmenting your market to give you a deeper look into their psyche so you can better market and serve them. But so you can also see what someone perceives as valuable as far as outside of your business. Now, of course, you should be selling on these platforms as well. But businesses that don't apply the jab, 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 right hook, or give value, give value, give value, ask for something back, are not tapping into the highest value within the law of reciprocity. And unless they have some amazingly unique product, but even in that case, even if they do have that amazingly unique product, they will always shortchange themselves unless they give back value to their customer or endeavor to do so in some way. Selling is the art of seduction, and the art of seduction is subtle, while also being overt. It is slight, while also being strong. It is slow, but it is also fast. So make sure you're always giving a reason for your client to follow you beyond your service, to stay engaged with you, to facilitate that conversation, and to start that conversation. Now, the other thing you can do is to find forums. It doesn't necessarily have to be a business forum. It doesn't necessarily have to be specifically related to your niche. It could be something of your own interest and start posting on there. Forget even about promoting your business, or what you could do is establish some sort of authority, some sort of knowledge within that forum. Just try and give back to the people regularly posting, and then have a Q&A thread where you answer a little bit about the business. And now if it is a business forum, what you could do is you could even go there and start like a thread where you keep up with what you're doing in your day-to-day business, and you can even tell people, I'm open to suggestions, so I'll even implement some of your ideas. And people would be surprised. They think like, oh, this sounds so woo-woo, nobody would ever give you a good suggestion online. But you'd be surprised as far as some of the filtering systems on some of the better forums. Ideally, you'd want to be an established poster or have done some posting before you do any sort of Q&As or self-promotion, because it may come off as a little too self-promotional if you just come in there and say, hey, this is my business, this is who I am, and just leave it like that. But if you give back, if you attempt to give back to the forum and to the people posting there, it'll be a much more natural transition. So in any case, all of these things can be done in your downtime. So while you're not necessarily working directly on your business, in an indirect way, it is garnering attention and adding value to others, which is what any business should be doing. So let's sum up. Create a competitive advantage in servicing the hell out of your customers. That is your competitive advantage as a smaller business, is that you can more attentively attend to those customers. You can have more extreme focus. Number one, get testimonials. Use that format that I've given. Try and make it a video compilation. Number two, get referrals. Create an Instagram of referrals. Start asking people to give a Yelp referral. Ask them for a Google referral. People are much more likely to comply if they've agreed to something or if it's asked. If you don't ask, you won't receive. Number three, understand the concept of preeminence. Fall in love with your customers. Harness the power of 1,000 true fans and use the long tail. Number four, service the hell out of your existing customers. So use the preneur hierarchy. Don't have a traffic fetish and continually look for new customers. Instead, survey your old customers. Find out ways you can better serve them. Find out ways you can create new products just for them. Find out ways you can innovate that they would be interested in partaking in. So number five, join a local trade exchange. Use that barter to get 80 or 90% discount. And number six, have an online presence in either a strictly business type where you mostly are posting in your business, or do something a little bit more fun. But always, in any case, endeavor to give back and create value within the customer's lives. Give them reasons to follow you in different places. For your Instagram, do your Instagram differently than your Twitter. Do your Twitter differently than your YouTube. Do your YouTube differently than your Facebook. Do your Facebook differently than your Blogspot. Also, post on forums. Maybe there's local forums that you can post on as far as a town forum. Maybe there's a business forum you can post on online. Maybe there's entrepreneurial forums. And just always be looking for ways in your downtime that you can do something that helps you with your business. I hope it's been of use. Let me know if you found something particularly useful. Leave a comment down below. Hit that like button if you found it useful as well. Subscribe and stay tuned for more. Take care, everyone.